Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah share. Hopefully, we are back after a little bit of a hiatus, an unfortunate one due to COVID, but hopefully now we're back. I had been hoping to say share already yesterday, but that didn't work out. So now we will continue where we left off on Thursday. This past Thursday was the last time I had said share. So we are continuing to learn Birchas Krias Shema. We're in Mishnah Berurah Chelik Aleph, and today, Mirtzat Shem, we will be completing Daf Kuf Daled Amen Aleph. So, in the last share that we did on Thursday, we began Siman Ayin. So, just for the sake of continuity, I'm going to read from the beginning of Sif Aleph. I'm not going to go over the Mishnah Berurah that we did already. We had started Mishnah Berurah Ois Katan Beis. Mishnah Berurah Ois Katan Beis is really divided into three parts. We had done already the first part. I'll speak it out outside, and then we will continue where we were holding. So, Siman Ayin. Miheim haPeturah b'Kriyas Shema, who is exempt from the chiyuv of Kriyas Shema, u'bai he seifim. Here we have 5 seifim. Said the Mechaber in Sif Aleph, Noshim va'avadim Peturim miKriyas Shema. Noshim, women, and avadim Kenanim, who are obligated in all of the mitzvahs that women are obligated to. Now, both Nashim and Arvadim are Peturim from mitzvahs asay shazman grama. They're both patur from being mekayim mitzvahs that are time dependent. So the Mechaber said here, Nashim v'avadim Peturim miKriyas Shema. Nashim and Avadim are patur from Kriyas Shema. Why? Mipnei shehi mitzvahs asay shazman grama, because Kriyas Shema is a mitzvah asay shazman grama. Continues the Mechaber and he says, "V'nochain hu lalamdam." It would be proper to teach them sheyakablu alehen oil malchus shamayim, that they, although they're patur in the mitzvah of Kriyas Shema, so they don't necessarily, and we'll get a little bit more into this, they don't necessarily have to recite any part of Kriyas Shema. They don't have to recite those actual psukim. Still, says the Mechaber, Nochin hu lalamdam, it would be proper to teach them sheyakablu aleid ol malchus shamayim, that somehow they do have to be makabel ol malchus shamayim. They have to do something to accept upon themselves the oil malchus shamayim, the yoke of heaven, that they're Abbas Yisrael. Certainly they have to do that in some way. Exactly how, we'll have to see. Says the Ramah, Hagah, since it is proper to teach them to be makabel ol malchus shamayim, says the Ramah, v'yikru lepachas pasuk rishon, at least the first pasuk of Kriyas Shema, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, and Baruch Shem K'vay Malchusay L'Olam Vayed, at least that they should make sure to recite. Now, Mishnah Berurah Chelik Aleph just says, Mishnah Berurah Ois Katan Aleph just says that when the Mechaber says Nashim and Avadim are patur, because Kriyas Shema is a mitzvah asay shazman grama, it means they're even patur midrabanan, because the rule is that women are patur in any mitzvah asay shazman grama, and that ptur is even midrabanan. They're not only patur midaraisa, they're patur midrabanan as well. Mishnah Berurah Ois Katan Beis. So, in Mishnah Berurah Ois Katan Beis, the Mishnah Berurah starts off by saying that the same way women are patur from reciting Kriyas Shema, they're also patur from reciting Birchas Krias Shema, because Birchas Krias Shema also has a zman. What's the zman of Birchas Krias Shema? Well, the zman of Kriyas Shema is shalosh shois, the end of the third hour of the day, right? Because Kriyas Shema is dependent on b'shachbecha uvekumecha. The zman of Kriyas Shema b'daraisa is zman shchiva, the time when people are laying down, and the zman kima, the time when the people are getting up. So the zman of Kriyas Shema shel shachris ends at the end of the third hour of the day, because that's the end of Zman Kima. By that time, already all people, normal people, are already up. Even the Bnei Malachim, that, people of leisure, even they get up already by the end of the third hour of the day. So the end of the third hour of the day, that's Seif Zman Kriyas Shema Shel Yom. So it has a Zman. It's time dependent. You have to be Mekayim the mitzvah before the third hour of the day. How about Birchas Krias Shema? So we learned earlier that Birchas Krias Shema has a different zman than Krias Shema. Let's remember what we learned. We learned that Birchas Krias Shema is really a misnomer. The brachas of Krias Shema they're not really brachas on Krias Shema. We don't say Asher Kedishanu b'mitzvaysav v'tzivanu likroi Krias Shema. They are brachas of tefillah. They're shavach, hoidah. We speak about the ma'oros. We thank the Rabbanu Shalom for the ma'oros in Avarabba. We speak about Torah. We speak about yetzias Mitzrayim a little bit. But these brachas are not brachas on Krias Shema. They're brachas of tefillah that Chazal or Masakin should be said around Krias Shema. Why are they said around Krias Shema? So we learned earlier it's because ein oimdim l'tefillah el mitach divrei Torah. When we want to be mispal, we have to join our tefillah to divrei Torah. Krias Shema is divrei Torah. These brachas of tefillah were niskan to be around the tefillah, around the Torah of Krias Shema. So what's the zman of Birchas Krias Shema? The same zman as zman tefillah. What's the soif zman tefillah? The end of the 4th hour of the day. But be it as it may, even though Birchas Krias Shema has a different zman than even though Birchas Krias Shema has a different zman than Krias Shema itself, it still has a zman. So says the Mishnah Berurah, Birchas Krias Shema is also a mitzvah seisha zman grama. So the same way Noshim and Avodim are potter Krias Shema, they're also potter from Birchas Krias Shema. But then the Mishnah Berurah brought down a Magen Avram. And the Magen Avram says something very interesting. We know that there's another facet to Krias Shema, besides the chiyuv of Krias Shema and Kabbalas al Malchus Shemayim and Kabbalas al Mitzvahs. There's another facet to Krias Shema, and that is Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim. Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim is also a mitzvah. Now, in the beginning of the Mishnah Berurah here, the Mishnah Berurah brings down the Magen Avram, and the Magen Avram says that Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim is not really a mitzvah say shazman grama, because there's a mitzvah of Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim by day, and there's also a mitzvah of Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim by night. So you have to mention Yetzias Mitzrayim by day, you have to mention Yetzias Mitzrayim by night. So really it's not a mitzvah say shazman grama, the Magen Avram says. Since it's not a mitzvah say shazman grama, women are chayiv in Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim. Now the Magen Avram says an interesting thing. Once we say that women are chayiv in Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim, well then the Birchas Krias Shema of Shachris, that's after Krias Shema, the bracha of Emes V'Yatziv, the bracha of Emes V'Yatziv is primarily about Yetzias Mitzrayim. So says the Magen Avram, once we establish that women are chayiv in Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim, therefore, by day, they're also chayiv in the bracha of Emes V'Yatziv, even though the bracha of Emes V'Yatziv is a mitzvah seisha zman grama, it has a soif zman tefillah. You can't say Emes V'Yatziv after the end of the 4th hour of the day. Doesn't matter, since women are chayiv in Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim, and Emes V'Yatziv is all about Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim, so they're chayiv to say the bracha of Emes V'Yatziv. You could look at the Dirshu footnotes. They bring down over there from the Paiskim that a woman cannot say Emes V'Yatziv after Soif Zman Tefillah. But as long as it's before Zman Tefillah, a woman has to say the bracha of Emes V'Yatziv. And by Ma'ariv, says the Magen Avram, a woman has to say the bracha of Emes V'Emunah, because the bracha of Emes V'Emunah is about Yetzias Mitzrayim. What's the end of the bracha of Emes V'Emunah? Baruch Atah Hashem Gal Yisrael. So a woman has to say the bracha of Emes V'Emunah. Not only that, a woman, the Magen Avram says, the Chavetz Chaim says, according to the Magen Avram, has to say the bracha of Hashkivenu. Why? Where does Hashkivenu come in? Because the Gemara in Bracha says that Hashkivenu, you ever wonder, we have to be masbich geula l'tefillah. So by Ma'ariv we say Baruch Atah Hashem Gal Yisrael. So really we should go straight to Shemona Esrei, but we don't. There's still another bracha, the bracha of Hashkivenu. But Hashkivenu is not a bracha on geula. So how are we masbich geula l'tefillah? So the Gemara bracha says geula arichta. Since the Chazal were masakin to say the bracha of Hashkivenu after Emes V'Emunah, and since it's a bracha smucha l'chaverta, it's connected to the bracha of Emes V'Emunah. It doesn't have its own psicha. It doesn't start Baruch Atah Hashem. It starts Hashkivenu. So Memela, the bracha of Hashkivenu is called Geula Arichta. It's like a continuation of the bracha of Geula of the bracha of emes ve'emuna. Therefore, says the Chavetz Chaim over here, that a woman who is chayiv in zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim is also chayiv in the morning to say the bracha of emes v'yatziv, and is also chayiv at night to say the bracha of emes ve'emuna and the bracha of hashkivenu. That's what comes out from the Magen Avraham. Now, the Chavetz Chaim is going to bring down two other opinions that disagree with the Magen Avraham. So if you go down into the Mishnah Berurah, in my print, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines down in the Mishnah Berurah. In the middle of Mishnah Berurah's cut Beis, says the Chavetz Chaim, V'ayin b'pri megadim, he says, take a look at the Pri Megadim Shekasav, who writes, Delaman desoiver zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim balayla hu rak midrabanan. We've been operating so far according to the Magen Avraham. The Magen Avraham seems to paskin like those who hold that the chiyuv of zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim by night is a midaraisa. So then it comes out that there's no difference in the mitzvah of zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim between day and night. Both of them are a chiyuv daraisa. So therefore, the Magen Avraham could say that zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim is not a mitzvah seishas man groma, because there's a daraisa dikachiyuv both by day and by night. But the Pri Megadim says there are those that disagree. There are those that say that the chiyuv of zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim by night is not a daraisa; it's only a darabanan. Oh, if it's only a darabanan, so then there's a chiyuv of zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim by day, which is a chiyuv daraisa, and then the chiyuv of zechiras yetzias by night is only a derabanan. So it says the Mishnah Berurah, V'ayin b'Pri Megadim, take a look at the Pri Megadim. Shekasav, who writes, Delaman desoiver zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim balayla hu rak b'derabanan. According to those who hold that the chiyuv of zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim by night is only a chiyuv derabanan, v'asmachta akra, and this that they learn it out from the pasuk, where the pasuk says kol yemei chayecha, like we say by the Seder in the middle of Magid, is only an asmachta. The Chazal didn't really learn out a chiyuv daraisa from there. It's only a chiyuv derabanan. The drasha of kol lahavi laila, that's only an asmachta. The Chachamim saw a remez, they made a chiyuv derabanan, and they saw a support for that chiyuv derabanan. They found a support for it in the pasuk. That's what an asmachta is. But it's not a real chiyuv midaraisa. Says the Pri Megadim, according to that shita, im kain memela hu mitzvah seishas man grama. So then it comes out that zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim is a mitzvah seishas man grama, because midaraisa it's only noig b'yoyim. Therefore, upeturais min HaTorah. So then women midaraisa are potter in zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim. Rak midarabanon chayavos. They're only chayiv in zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim midarabanan. V'chein kasa b'sefer Yeshuas Yaakov ayin sham. So says the Yeshuas Yaakov. If you take a look in the Yeshuas Yaakov. Now, if you take a look in the Yeshuas Yaakov, what the Yeshuas Yaakov says is like this. He says a very interesting thing. He says a woman is potter in a mitzvah seishas man grama. Midaraisa zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim is a mitzvah seishas man grama, according to this shita, because it's only noig by day, it's not noig by night. The chiyuv of zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim by night is only a derabanan. So midaraisa zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim is a mitzvah seishas man grama. But midarabanan, says the Yeshuas Yaakov, midarabanan, there is a chiyuv of zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim by night. Im kain, says the Yeshuas Yaakov, midarabanan zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim is not a mitzvah seishas man grama, because midarabanan it's noyeg bein b'yoyim and bein b'layla. Im kain midarabanan women are chayiv in zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim, because midarabanan it's not a mitzvah seishas man grama. So says the Yeshuas Yaakov. Okay. So now, according to the Yeshuas Yaakov, according to the Magen Avraham, women are chayiv in zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim midaraisa, because it's not a mitzvah seishas man grama. And because of that, said the Mishnah Berurah, they're chayiv in emes v'yatziv, they're chayiv in emes ve'emuna, they're chayiv in hashkivenu, and they're also chayiv to be masmich geula l'tfila, because if they're chayiv in emes v'yatziv, and they're chayiv in emes ve'emunah and hashkivenu, and they're chayiv in tefillah, so that it makes sense that they're chayiv to be masmech kulu l'tefillah. That's all based on the Magen Avram. Now says the Mishnah Berurah, but wait a second. You have the Pri Megadim who says that this chiyuv is only a chiyuv d'Rabbanan. But now let's go weiter. Va'afilu ibnemo duhu mitzvah min HaTorah bayoyim u'balayla. Now there's another shita. Now there's the Shagas Aryeh. The Shagas Aryeh says, wait a minute. Let's even take as a given that there's a chiyuv of zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim midaraisa, both by day and both by night. Does that equal that zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim is not a mitzvah seisha as man grama? Says the Shagas Aryeh, no. It's still a mitzvah seisha as man grama. Why? Because there's one chiyuv by day and there's another chiyuv by night. And the chiyuv by day is time dependent. It has to be accomplished during the day. So you got to do it before nightfall. The mitzvah of night is also time dependent. You have to do it during the night. What happens if you do not accomplish zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim during the day? Could you make it up by night? No. By night is a different mitzvah. So the Shagas Aryeh says, wait a second. Even according to what we're saying in the Magen Avram, that the mitzvah saseh of zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim is equally noyig bein bayom u bein balayla. So the Magen Avram said, therefore it's not a mitzvah seisha man grama. Says the Shagas Aryeh, wait a second. I don't care if you're chayiv bein bayom u bein balayla. It's still a mitzvah seisha man grama, because the daytime chiyuv is one chiyuv and the nighttime chiyuv is a different chiyuv. So it's still a mitzvah seisha man grama. So the Shagas Aryeh says, therefore, women are potter. They're not even chayiv in the Rabbanan. He disagrees that they're even chayiv in the Rabbanan. Let's see it inside. Va'afilu im nema du mitzvah min HaTorah b'yom u'balayla. Says the Chavetz Chaim, even if you'll say that zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim is a mitzvah midaraisa both by day and by night, still mitzaded b'sefer Shagas Aryeh Siman Yud Beis, the Shagas Aryeh famously says in Siman Yud Beis that nashim pturos, that women are still potter in zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim. Why? Mitam the haskar the yoim hi mitzvah b'fnei atzma, because the chiyuv of zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim of day is one chiyuv. V'im lo yihiskir b'yoim, and if you don't accomplish it during the day, ain't tzarich lahaskir haskar zu b'layla. You're not mechuyev to make it up by night. Umashem maskir b'layla, the fact that you're going to mention yetzias Mitzrayim by night, he mitzvah b'fnei atzma. That's a separate mitzvah. Ayin sham. So the Shagas Aryeh says, zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim, women, they're potter. Midaraisa, midrabanan. So what comes out over here from the Mishnah Berurah, from this cholent, from this whole cholent that the Mishnah Berurah gave me over here? L'chayri, it comes out, according to the Magen Avram, he holds that women are chayiv in zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim midaraisa, because it's not a mitzvah seisha as man grama. And based on that, says the Chavetz Chaim, there would be chayiv to say emes v'yatziv in the morning, there would be chayiv to say emes v'emunah at night, and they're chayiv to be masmech ku'ula l'tefillah. Then he brings down the Yeshuas Yaakov. The Yeshuas Yaakov says they're not chayiv midaraisa in zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim, but they are chayiv midarabanan. How does that affect emes v'yatziv, emes v'emunah, hashkivenu, smichas ku'ula l'tefillah? The Chavetz Chaim doesn't say. Then he brings down the Shagas Aryeh. The Shagas Aryeh says they're not even chayiv midarabanan in zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim. Zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim is completely a mitzvah seisha as man grama, and they're in ganz and potter. Okay, that's what comes out over here from the Mishnah Berurah. Soon we'll read an Aruch HaShulchan, and we'll see what the Aruch HaShulchan says, and how beautifully he writes it, halacha l'maisa. Let's continue right now in the Mishnah Berurah. Now the Mishnah Berurah shifts gears, and he says, okay, now we spoke about Krias Shema, we spoke about zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim, we spoke about Birchas Krias Shema, emes v'yatziv, emes v'emunah, hashkivenu. How about other parts of davening? Says the Mishnah Berurah, Upsuke de Zimra, when it comes to women and a chiyuv to recite Psuke de Zimra, Ayin la'el b'Siman Nun Beis b'Chedusha Rabbi Akiva Eger. He says, take a look earlier in Siman Nun Beis in the Chedusha Rabbi Akiva Eger, the Muchach Sham Midvarav, where it's proven from the words of Rabbi Akiva Eger, the Ha'ikr Niskenu b'Shvel HaTfila, that the purpose of Psuke de Zimra is a preparation for Tefillah. How is Psukei de Zimra preparation for tefillah? Very, very simple. When it comes to tefillah, when it comes to Shemoneh Esrei, what are you doing? You're coming and you're asking the Ribbono Shel Olam, to supply you with all your needs and to take care of all of your problems. You're saying, Rafeinu Hashem and Nerafeh. The Ribbono Shel Olam should give us a refuah shalema and we'll be healed. Baruch Aleinu Hashem Elokeinu Hashan Hazos. You ask the Ribbono Shel Olam for parnasa. Ata Chayin L'Adam Das. You ask the Ribbono Shel Olam for wisdom, for das, for knowledge, for a good head. V'lu Yerushalayim Ircha. You ask the Ribbono Shel Olam for the Geula Shlema. So you're coming and you're asking the Ribbono Shel Olam all of your bakashas. Why are you asking the Ribbono Shel Olam for your bakashas? Oh, because you believe that the Ribbono Shel Olam is the one who has the ability and has the power to grant you all of your bakashas. You acknowledge that the Ribbono Shel Olam is the one that has the power to take care of you. In order to come into Shemoneh Esrei, first you have to build that recognition up in your mind and in your heart. How do you do that? By saying Psukei de Zimra. You come and you say Psukei de Zimra and you praise the Ribbono Shel Olam with all of the praises of Psukei de Zimra. That's where you're acknowledging the Ribbono Shel Olam's mastery over all of creation. Once you do that, now you could come to Shemoneh Esrei. Now you could come ask the Ribbono Shel Olam for your tzarchim. It's because of this that the Rishivas Atzal, Rav Moshe Zecher Tzadik V'Kadosh Livracha, held that for a woman, it's more critical to say Psukei de Zimra than Krias Shema. Got that? It's more critical for a woman to say Psukei de Zimra than it is for her to say Krias Shema. Because Psukei de Zimra is where you acknowledge the Ribbono Shel Olam's mastery over the entire Bria, and where you pile Shevach Vaidah onto the Ribbono Shel Olam for everything that he does. It's more critical to acknowledge that than it is to say Krias Shema, says the Rishivas Atzal. So now, says the Mishnah Berurah, Psukei de Zimra Leil b'Siman Nun Beis b'Kedusha Rebbe Kivega Debuchach Sham Midvar V'Dikar Niskenu B'Shvel HaTefillah. Imkain Memel Chayavos. Imkain, says the Mishnah Berurah, if Psukei de Zimra is preparatory to Tefillah and women are chayiv in Tefillah, then it comes out that there's zichor chayiv in Psukei de Zimra. Or li'inyan Birchas HaShachar, when it comes to Birchas HaShachar, l'chayra tolui zeh, this shaila, whether or not women are chayiv in Birchas HaShachar, would be dependent on im nema da habrachas ha'elu yesh lahem zman. Is there a zman to Birchas Krias Shema? Ayel la'el b'sayv Siman Nun Beis b'Mishnah Berurah Sivkat and Yoda b'Bir Halacha v'tzarchian, and he blibes tzarchian. Umestimas lashon HaTorah v'Shulchan Aruch b'Siman Mem Vav Siv Daled, from the generalized language used by the Torah and the Shulchan Aruch and Siman Mem Vav Siv Daled, ubeprat me'alavush sham ayin sham mashma de mevarcha is Birchas HaShachar kama anoshim. It is implied that women do say Birchas HaShachar the same way men do. Don't recall what he means by the generalized lashon of the Shulchan Aruch, Mem Vav Siman Daled. Over there, the Mechaber says, Tzarich levarech b'chol yom. It is required for one to make a bracha every day. Shalai asani goy, shalai asani aved, shalai asani isha. V'hanoshim mevarchais shasani kirtzainai. And women don't make the bracha of shalai asani isha, obviously. They make the bracha of shasani kirtzainai. Sounds like women are chayiv in all of the Birchas HaShachar. Continues the Mishnah Berurah and he says, V'ulam. Nevertheless, after giving us this whole arichus of what women are chayiv in and what they're not chayiv in, V'ulam kol zeh kasavnu le'inyan chiv. Everything we wrote over here is in the context of obligation on a chiv of a woman. Avo pshita, but it's obvious, says the Chavetz Chaim, that they certainly could be mechayiv themselves. Ulavarich afilu Birchas Krias Shema. Certainly a woman wants to, she could say Birchas Krias Shema every day, whether she's obligated or not. Okay, let's do a couple of more Mishnah Berurahs that we'll see the Aruch HaShulchan. Ois Katan Gimel Shazban Grama. Krias Shema is a mitzvah say Shazban Grama. The Tala Kosu Bizman Shchiva Bizman Kima, because it's time dependent. right? You have to say Krias Shema Shalayla in Zman Shchiva, the time when people are going to sleep, before Tzeis HaKechavim. And Krias Shema Shal Yom, you have to say before the end of the third hour of the day, Zman Kimo, when people are still getting up. Ois Katan Daled V'nochainhu. The Mechaber said it would be proper to train women and Avadim to be Mekabel Ol Malchus Shemayim. Mashma, the implication of the words of the Mechaber, he says it would be proper. Mashma, the implication is Bitzad Din Pturin, that Me'ikar Din, they're really potter. Va'abach Pasak, the Bach Paskins, the Chayaven Medina Lekabel Ol Malchus Shemayim, the Pasuk Rishon, that Me'ikar Din, women have a chiyuv to be Mekabel Ol Malchus Shemayim by saying the first Pasuk of Krias Shema, which I think includes Baruch Shem. Aval Harbi Achroinim Cholkin Al Zeh, but many disagree. Ois Katan Hey Shamayim, they have to be Mekabel Ol Malchus Shemayim. B'Sefer Naklas Tzvi Pirish the Kavanas HaMechaber Kol Parsha Rishayna. It means not only Shema and Baruch Shem, but the whole Parsha of Ahavta. V'Harav Hoisef Alav Dal Kol Panim Kol Pasuk Rishon, at least Shema and Baruch Shem. Avo B'Levush Mashma the Gam Kavanas HaMechaber Hu Rak Pasuk Rishon V'Zeu Shebeir Harav. Okay, so here we saw the whole arichus of the Chavetz Chaim. Now let's take a look what the Aruch HaShulchan writes in regards to the chiyuv of women, specifically the chiyuv in the context of the mitzvah of Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim. So first, I'll start from the beginning of the Aruch HaShulchan, where he says, "Nashim v'avadim p'turin mikriyas Shema m'nei shebitzasei shazman grama." Like the Mechaber, the Krias Shema Shal Yom ain't allowed Gimel Shois, because Krias Shema Shal Yom has a fixed zman. You have to say it before the end of the third hour of the day. U'dalayla, av shenoya kol halayla, even though you could do it all night, mikol mokom hashalayla in a yetzias b'yom, but you have to do it by night, not by day. V'harei zman grama. So Krias Shema, by definition, is a mitzvah seisha zman grama, so women are potter. V'chein peturos mi Birchas Krias Shema, and says the Aruch HaShulchan, they are also potter from Birchas Krias Shema. Tehem gam kein zman grama, because zman Birchas Krias Shema also is a zman. So it's zman tefillah. So it's also a mitzvah seisha zman grama. The potter from Krias Shema, they're potter from Birchas Krias Shema. Vav shebet tefillah chayavos, even though they are chayav in tefillah, k'masha kasav b'sibit kovav, tefillah shani derachimihu. They're chayav in tefillah, even though tefillah also has a saif zman. Why the chayiv in tefillah? Because everybody has to bait the Rabbeinu Shalom for Rachmanis. Everybody has to beseech the Rabbeinu Shalom. There's no such thing as being potter from that. Im recite, if they want, says Aruch HaShulchan, Yechaylos Levarich v'Krias Krias Shema. They certainly can say Birchas Krias Shema and say Krias Shema. Kamay Sukkah v'Lulav. Just like they could be Mekayim the mitzvah sukkah, even though they're potter, and they can make a bracha, and they could be Mekayim the mitzvah say of lulav, and they can make a bracha. It says Aruch HaShulchan, V'nashi didan, our women, oisais kain. That's taka what they do. V'tavay alein bracha, and they should be gebenched. They want to do it because they're allowed to do it, and that's the minhag, and they should be gebenched. Ubeberchas hashachar. And the Chavetz Chaim brought down a whole shaila. Are women chayiv in Birchas HaShachar? Says the Aruch HaShulchan, chayavos midina. Yes, they are chayiv. Me'ikar adin. They're chayiv in Birchas Krias Shema. Shagam hein b'chlala de bracha. Shalei niskenu kol Birchas HaShachar. They're a human being like all other human beings. And these brachas were niskan by Chazal on all of the needs of people. So, the same way a man says, Pekech Ivrim, we thank the Rebbeinu Shalom for opening our eyes. A woman has to thank the Rebbeinu Shalom for opening up our eyes. Ubar she'amar v'yishtabach ein chiyuv alein. They have no chiyuv on bar she'amar and yishtabach v'yecholos leimar, but they certainly could say it. V'lama lo yuchlu l'zamar l'Hashem. Why shouldn't they praise the Rebbeinu Shalom? K'may she'asasa Miriam v'chol nashi Yisrael b'Kriyas Yamsuf, like we just saw in Parshas B'Shalach. The women sang Gos Yashir, so why shouldn't they sing to the Rebbeinu Shalom? Then the Aruch HaShulchan says like this: Yesh mi she'omer. There are those that say the nashim chayavos b'zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim. There are those that want to say that women are chayiv in zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim. Well, we had the Magen Avram. The Magen Avram said they're chayiv in zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim in daraisa because it's not a mitzvah seisha zman grama. We had the Yeshuas Yaakov, who says that they're chayiv midrabanan. Says the Aruch HaShulchan, yesh bishomer, the nashim chayavis, b'skiris yetzias Mitzrayim. There are those that want to say that women are chayiv in b'skiris yetzias Mitzrayim. And memela, ulefikach, and therefore, chayavis loimer emes v'yatziv. So they want to say that women are chayiv in emes v'yatziv. And v'lismach geula l'tfila. And that they're also have a chiv to be masmich geula l'tfila. The chiv askaris yetzias Mitzrayim, hu b'chol yom kuloi v'alayla kuloi. The rationale, like we saw, of the Magen Avram and the Yeshuas Yaakov, is that there is a chiv of Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim, both by day and both by night. So they want to argue that it's not a mitzvah seisha azman grama. V'im kein ein zezman grama v'noshim chayavos. V'yesh mi shechoylek bazeh, and there are those who argue, like the Shagas Aryeh. V'harei shnei chiyuvim heim b'yoyim u'balayla, because like the Shagas Aryeh says, the daytime chiyuv is one chiyuv, the nighttime chiyuv is a different chiyuv, and they're both mitzvah seisha azman grama. U'diyoyim ein noig balayla. The daytime chiyuv isn't noig by night. Dim shachach lahaskir b'yoyim ein amoyel delayla l'diyoyim, v'chein delayla ein noig b'yoyim. V'adayin have a mitzvah seisha azman grama v'noshim b'turais. The Shagas Aryeh says Aruch HaShulchan, u'bal karchach tzarach loimer kein. The Aruch HaShulchan says, bal karchach, whether you like it or not, you're mechuyev to say like the Shagas Aryeh. He says you have to say like the Shagas Aryeh, that Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim is a mitzvah seisha azman grama, even though it's known by day and by night. The daytime chiyuv is one chiyuv, the nighttime chiyuv is a separate chiyuv. They're both a mitzvah seisha azman grama, and women are potter, midaraisa, midrabanan. He says it has to be that way. Why? Because let's remember, this is a machloikis tanoim in Masechtas Brachos that we speak about by the Seder. The Chachamim ben Zayma, says the Aruch HaShulchan, the Halarabanan de ben Zayma, b'seif parakam the Brachos, because according to the Chachamim that argue on ben Zayma, ein chayavin ba'alayla ba'askaras yetzias Mitzrayim. According to the Chachamim, there is no chiyav of zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim by night. Uledidhu v'adei nashim b'turai. So according to the Chachamim, zicha women are potter, because it's a mitzvah seisha azman grama. And if you want to tell me that according to Ben Zayma, who holds that there is a chiyuv of Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim by night, then women are chayiv, because somehow that makes it a mitzvah seisha ein azman grama. You hear what I'm saying? What Aruch HaShulchan is saying? There's a machlokes to Chachamim and Ben Zayma. The Chachamim hold there's only a chiyuv of Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim by day. Ben Zayma argues. Ben Zayma learns out from a pasuk, Kol Yemei Chayecha. He learns out that there's also a chiyuv of Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim by night. Now, says the Aruch HaShulchan, if you want to tell me that according to Ben Zayma, that who holds that there's a chiyuv by day and a chiyuv by night, if you want to tell me that that makes it a mitzvah saseh she'ein azman grama, then it comes out that there's a massive nafkamina ladina between the Chachamim and Ben Zayma. According to the Chachamim, Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim is a mitzvah seisha azman grama and women are potter. And according to Ben Zayma, the mitzvah of Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim is a mitzvah seisha ein azman grama and women are chayiv. So says the Aruch HaShulchan, if that's true, havalei lahashas lahaskir chilik zeh, then this nafkamina should have been mentioned in Shas, and it's not. Therefore, says Aruch HaShulchan, ube'emes chiyuva d'yetzias Mitzrayim ein nimna b'klal mitzvah say. The truth is that the mitzvah of Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim is not even counted amongst the Taryag mitzvahs. K'man shekasavti b'sayv Siman samach zayin ayin sham. V'lo yitilu al nashim chiyuv zeh, and there's no question, says the Aruch HaShulchan, there's no chiyuv on women of Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim. The Yetzias Mitzrayim nichlal b'parshas tzitzitz, and we are mekayim the mitzvah of Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim in what parsha? In the parsha of Vayomer. That's the parsha of tzitzitz. V'anoshim b'turas b'tzitzitz. Note, says the Aruch HaShulchan, how are we mekayim the mitzvah say of Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim? By mentioning it in the parsha of tzitzitz, and the parsha of tzitzitz is not negated to women. So guess what? It's because women are potter. U'lechein ha-mishnah v'ha-gemara v'ha-poiskim kisha-amru d'nashim b'turas b'Kriyas Shema. When we say that nashim are potter in Krias Shema, they're potter completely in Krias Shema. Krias Shema nichlal gam yetzias Mitzrayim, so they're potter in the yetzias Mitzrayim as well, and therefore they're potter in emes v'yatziv, they're potter in emes v'amuna, they're potter in hashkivenu, and they are potter in being masmit ku'ulu l'tfila umidasasma devreim shma mina de peturais. So says the Aruch HaShulchan halacha lamaisa. Okay. Whew. Let's try to go a little bit weiter over here. Says the Mechaber Sif Beis, 3 lines down in the Shulchan Aruch. Kitanim, minor children, Piturim l'Rabbeinu Tam. According to Shitas Rabbeinu Tam, Kitanim are potter in Krias Shema, Kishaloi higiu l'chinuch, as long as they have not yet attained the age of chinuch, which is approximately 6 or 7 years old. So under the age of 6 or 7, according to the Rabbeinu Tam, they're potter in Krias Shema. Ola Rashi, but according to Shitas Rashi, they're potter afilu higiu l'chinuch. Even a child of 6 or 7 years old who's considered a giel l'chinuch, not Krias Shema. They're potter in Krias Shema, and the father doesn't have a chiyuv to be mechanech in Krias Shema. Why, says the Shulchan Aruch? Mipnei she'enoi motzri etzloi b'zman Krias Shema ba'erev, because the kid is usually not together with the father in the evening when it's man Krias Shema. V'yashen hu b'boker, and in the morning the kid sleeps late, and the father is already out to work. So practically speaking, says Rashi, you cannot put the chiyuv of chinuch of the mitzvah of Krias Shema on a father. Why? Because he's not with him at night. At night, the kid goes to sleep early, and the father's out of the house. And in the morning, the kid sleeps late, and the father's out of the house. So practically, you cannot put the chiyuv of chinuch on the mitzvah of Krias Shema on a father. And therefore, even if the child is a giel chinuch, the child is still potter. That's Shitas Rashi. Shitas Rabbeinu Tam. No. The chiyuv of Krias Shema is a chiyuv like any other mitzvah, and a father has a chiyuv of chinuch. Don't tell me he's not around. He's got to figure it out. So Machlokes Rabbeinu Tam and Rashi, and says the Mechaber over here at the end of Sif Beis, V'roi linoi Rabbeinu Tam, it would be proper to be noyeg like Rabbeinu Tam, and once a kid is a giel chinuch, the father should be mechanech him in the mitzvah of Krias Shema. Says the Mishnah Berurah Katan Vav, Rabbeinu Tam. According to Rabbeinu Tam, a kid reaches 6 or 7, father has to be mechanechim in the mitzvah. And he has to be mechanech the kid to say Krias Shema at the right time. So according to Rabbeinu Tam, you have to wake up your 6-year-old before Zman Krias Shema. According to Rabbeinu Tam, you can't let him sleep that late. You got to wake him up. And he has to say it properly with Birchas Krias Shema. Ois Katan Zayin, Kishaloi Higil L'Chinuch. According to Rabbeinu Tam, they're potter as long as they haven't reached the age of Chinuch. Says the Chavetz Chaim, Umikam Bakaim, they're not completely potter, even before the age of Chinuch. Umikam Bakaim Pasuk Rishon Shema Krias Shema, the first Pasuk Shema Yisrael Bar Shem, Mitzvah Al Aviv Lalamdoi Mishiyadei L'Daber. Once a kid knows how to talk, father should teach him to say Shema Yisrael and Baruch Shem. V'lav dafka b'zman Krias Shema, but that doesn't have to be during Zman Krias Shema. Oiskes, Papoiker, Rashi said, no, practically speaking, you can't be mechayev a father to be mechanech his kid in Krias Shema because he's not with him. Papoiker, Ritzayin Eloima l'kach lo yitilu ala avav l'chanchai. You can't place this chiyuv on the father. Vayin bebach shekosav, the imhu ben shtei mesrei shana. Once a kid reaches 12, says the Bach, all bets are off, even according to Rashi, you got to be mechanechim. L'kulei alma hu tal alav of l'chanechim b'zeh. Ois contest, the Mechaber said, for roy linig, it would be proper to be noyeg like Shitas Rabbeinu Tam. Ritzayin Elomer, afal gav de bedino mistaber karashi. Even though me ikradin, it's mistaber to paskin like Rashi. V'chein kosav agrozal. Afal pike nochayin linoy Rabbeinu Tam, it would be proper to be noyeg like Rabbeinu Tam. V'chein mashmir divrei Rambam, ayim b'lechem Mishnah b'pnei Moshe al Yerushalmi. Af betfil l'kuliyam chayiv v'megil l'chelak l'kamatziv Siman kovav sev aleph. When it comes to the chiyuv of tefillah, over there certainly once a child is a gil l'chinuch, the father should be mechanech him in the chiyuv of tefillah. of davening. 1 second. Yeah. Okay, we're going to stop over here. Mirza Hashem. Next time we'll pick up with Siv Gimel. Rabbi, I'm sorry that I'm going a little bit slower than usual, but I still have to regain my koyach. I don't have the stamina. I get drained very, very easily. I'm going to close the sefer now when I turn off the recording, and I'm going to be flat for a half hour. Okay, but it's good to be back. Thank you for joining me for limud HaTorah. The schus of limud HaTorah should be making against Klal Yisrael. The Rosh should send Yeshua's refuahs parnasim sheduchim to all those in need, and we should be zeicher to see the Bias Tzedek. Then the hair of Yameinu Amen. Be well.